Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we masech the Succah daf Mem Aleph. We are going to begin on Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, third line from the top. Amar of Ashi. So we were learning in yesterday's daf a machlokas between the opinions of Eliezer and Rabbi Yochanan. When it comes to the dinim of Shvius, how can a person transfer the kedusha of the parish Shvius onto, for example, the money, the Mei Shvius? So according to Rabbi Eliezer, it can only work derech mekach. You have to actually do a transaction of money, and that's how it works, like a mecher, as the pasuk says. Rabbi Yochanan says, of course, derech mekach would work, but also you can do it derech chilul, in which Rashi explained that all you're basically doing is saying hari perus halolu m'chaylin al ma'os ha'elu, that you just say this fruit's kedusha is being transferred onto this money, and that's it. And all of a sudden, the money now has the kedusha. Now, again, that has nothing to do with the actual transaction. It's just a verbal declaration. The question is derech chilul acceptable? Rabbi Yochanan says you could also use that. We brought braisos to support both opinions, and now the Gemara is going to quantify this a little bit more. Omer Rav Ashi. Machlokes b'pri rishon. The whole machlokes between these two opinions is the first time this transaction takes place, this transition, I should say, of kedusha from one to the other. But b'pri sheni, once the kedusha is already removed from the first one, now we're at the pri sheni, and now you want to remove the kedusha from the pri sheni to the next. In that situation, divrei kol ben derech mekach ben derech chilul. At that stage, so far removed, everyone holds, even when it comes to Shvius, you can do it in any way. It could be a transaction of money through a purchase, or even derech chilul. So the Gemara says, "Baditani lokach lokach." The question is, we brought a raya that l'chayra, the fact that it says lokach more than once, so why is that the case? L'chayra, that should be a raya that you can only do it derech mekach. So the Gemara says, no, I did the tani reisha lokach. It doesn't mean that it has to always be done that way, but they just continue to use the same language, as we see in the beginning of Psachim. Many times we speak in a lashon katsara, in an easy way to be able to understand, so that's the reason why it's done. But don't make an actual diuk that it has to be done that way, the second transaction. That can even be done derech chilul. So he's for Ravina Rav Ashi. So he asked Rav Ashi the following question. Let's say you have a basket, and in that basket you have things that belong to the kedusha of Shvius. And you want to get a shirt. So Kate said Yasas, what should you do? You have this in front of you, but you want a shirt. So you should go to a person who you typically go to, and Rashi says so he's going to basically do your bidding. Your armulo, you say to him like this: Tainli besel aperos the noisenlo. Give me your basket of fruits, and you give it to him. Armulo hari peris halolu. These fruits that are in this basket, nesun mechamatan. I'm giving them to you as a gift. For who armulo? He says halacha selazu b'matana. Now I'm going to give you back money, but not for the purpose of these fruits. I'm just going to give it to you as a gift. And now you can take that money and you can buy whatever you want with it. Now the prishenihu. Over here, this is considered to be prisheni. Nonetheless, v'katani derech mekach in derech chilul. So it seems that you must still do derech mekach even by prisheni. And therefore, we will maskana, which is going to be question 1, him derech chilul shel perish shvius in the following way. Rav Ashi changes it like this: machlokas for prisheni. The whole machlokas when it comes to prisheni, if you could still do it derech chilul. However, b'pri rishon they recall derech mekach in derech chilul lo. However, when it comes to the first transaction, it must be derech mekach. Again, that would be in support of the pasuk that says v'chi simchu memcher. So the first transaction everyone holds must be derech mekach. The question is, the second or pri sheni, can it be done derech chilul? V'hadir tani echad shvius ve'echad meiser sheni. So it talked about shvius and meiser sheni, that we have the ability to even do derech chilul. So, and it says shvius. So my shvius, demei shvius, is referring to the value of shvius, which means that it's not the fruit itself, that's not pre-rishon, but the demei shvius, which is the pre-sheni. So when it comes to the pre-sheni, according to that opinion, you can do derech chilul. It's a machlokas, but that would be in support that through pre-sheni you can do derech chilul. The ilute mahachi, if you don't say this, meiser mamish, v'aksiv v'sarta hakesed biyadcha. When it talks about meiser, it says you're supposed to have it onto money. Says Rashi, v'chi yesh loimer shemaser atzma yischal al behema chayv of. It's a great question. In yesterday's daf we said, oh, it has to be not alive, it can't be alive. The animal, what do you mean? Meiser sheni, the whole din is you can transfer the kedusha of your fruit of meiser sheni onto money. The pasuk says the start to kasbi adacha. El demei meiser hachanami demei shvius. The whole restriction of the start to kasbi adacha is only when it comes to the initial transaction. When you take the meiser sheni, you have to put it onto money. But once you have demei meiser, then you could actually put it onto, as we saw in the Gemara over there, animals, whether they're alive or not alive, or zacharim, maybe not nekevas, maybe not even zacharim. Okay. Next Mishnah, Rishayna. So originally, famous Mishnah over here, which is also in Rosh Hashanah, Hayalulav nitel b'mikdash shiva. The custom was, in the Beis HaMikdash, the lulav was taken for 7 days. And it's based on the pasuk that Rashi quotes. It says, V'samachtem l'fnei Hashem elkeichem shiva shomen, which is mashma dafka where you're l'fnei Hashem, which is by the Beis HaMikdash, which excludes outside, v'lo b'gvulin, outside of the Mikdash, it would not be for Zayin Yomim. However, Medina Yom Echad, which is why, again, outside, like in Yerushalayim or anywhere out there, it's only for 1 day. Mishachar Beis HaMikdash, once the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Hiskim Rav Yochanan Zaka Shehilu of Nitel b'Medina Shiva L'Zeichel Mikdash. Since in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, in the Beis HaMikdash we took the lulav and that stroke for 7 days, even though outside of the Beis HaMikdash was only a 1 day thing. It says L'Kafachem b'Yom Rishon, so the pasuk says. But the drasha of the Samachtim L'Fnei Hashem Elkeichem Shiva Shomen tells you you're supposed to take a lulav and esrog all 7 days in the Beis HaMikdash. Now we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. The Zeichel Mikdash, we take it for 7 days. But really, Mikra and Din, we don't need to take the lulav and esrog for 7 days. Furthermore, Shei Yoim Hanaf Kul Aser. This is a little bit more complex, so let's see what Rashi says. Now, when it comes to Omer, the bringing of the Omer offering, the Omer, of course, is the same time of the Sfiras Omer, which is the night of the second Seder, the 16th of Nisan, and Tez Zayin b'Nisan, Kul Aser b'Chadash. We know you're not allowed to eat Chadash, new grain, until the Omer offering on Pesach was brought on the 16th. Now, in the time where there's no Beis HaMikdash, the question is, what do you do? So the entire day became a day in which you could not eat Chadash. You could not eat the new grain because there was no Minchas Omer that was being brought. Let's look at Rashi. V'od HaMikdash Kayim Mishikar b'Omer hayu oichlin Chadash bo b'yoyim. The pasuk says, when you bring the Omer, then you're allowed to eat Chadash. You can eat the new grains. However, Mishachar Habayis Mutter Min HaTorah Misho'er Mizrach. Technically, once it's light outside, you should be able to do so. As it says in Masechtas Menachos, Kosav Echad Omer Ad Etzem Hayom Hazeh, Dahainu Or HaMizrach, the morning. Ksiv Echad Omer Ad Haviyachem, only until after you bring it. So, okay, so there's Mandi Ika Omer, when the carbon can be brought in time to be Mikdash Ad Haviyachem. You have to wait until it was brought. However, there's Mandi Leika Omer Ad Etzem. However, without the Beis HaMikdash, when the Omer is not brought, technically all you have to do is then that morning, and that's it. V'asar Rabbi Yochanan Zakei Aleihim al hayoim kol hayoim kin mefarish time Gemara. He says, you know what? Doesn't make any difference. That entire day you cannot eat chadash, and the Gemara is going to explain the reason. So Minoan Diavdinan Zeichel Mikdash. How do we know that, as Rabbi Yochanan Zakei does, he starts saying, oh yeah, let's take the lulav for 7 days. Zeichel Mikdash. Why? Where do we see that there's an element of doing things to remember the Beis HaMikdash? So Amar Rabbi Yochanan Diyer Kra. It's interesting. You would think it's just a svara, but we bring a pasuk. Ki Allah Arucha Locha. When one is going to come up, and you'll be healed from your wounds. Ki nidche karulach, because those who call to you will be pushed up. Tzionhi, Dairish Einla. This is Dairish Einla. There's no one who is seeking Hashem. Dairish Einla Machlal Deboy Drisha. It has to be Drisha. The problem of this, of what's being said here, is that no one cares. There's Dairish Einla. There's no one that's seeking out Hashem. And therefore, we have to do things, Zeichel HaMikdash, to show that we are Dairish. She Yom Hanaf, so my timer. Why did he say that you can't eat from Chadash that entire 16th of Nisan? Meheri Bana Beis HaMikdash, let the Beis HaMikdash be built very quickly. And let's say now the Beis HaMikdash is built on Pesach. The Yomru, people say, Shtakid, last year, I remember when the Beis HaMikdash was not around, but Milu Achlenu B'Hoyer Mizrach, I remember we were able to eat right away on the 16th, right in the morning. So Hashtanami Nechel, they're going to end up eating also at the beginning. The Inhu Yadai, they didn't know this Rashi which we saw. The Shtakid Lo Yahav Beis HaMikdash Hoyer Mizrach Eater, because before it says Adat Samayom Azet, so you're able to eat the Chadash right away. But that's because there was no Beis HaMikdash, there's no Omer. But Hasha the Ika Beis HaMikdash Omer Matir. So therefore, because of this, we're concerned a person will end up eating. The Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt. Can you imagine this? This is the Chshad. That the Beis HaMikdash is hopefully going to be rebuilt, and then all of a sudden it's rebuilt, and people are going to end up eating Chadash on the second day before the Omer offering is brought. So the question is, when exactly will this Beis HaMikdash be built that we have this Chash? So the evening b'shitzer, let's say it was built on the 16th, which is the second day of Pesach. So Hari Hitter Ha'ir Mizrach. On the 16th, that's when Mashiach comes. So at that time, on the 16th, it was already the morning without the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore you were able to eat Chadash that year right away. The evening b'Chemesar, which is hard to understand. It was built on the 15th. It was built on Yom Tov. Okay, let's just go through the language over here. So it was built on the 15th. In other words, before the it was built on the 15th, and now all of a sudden the 16th comes, and we actually have to bring the Omer offering because we have a Beis HaMikdash. We have a chiyuv to bring the Omer, which means he can't eat it by sunrise. From midday already, it should be mutter. Why do we say it's usher that entire day? Datanan. Those who even live very far away, we know that the Minchas Omer was always brought by midday. They weren't lazy, they were very quick, and there was reason to do this mitzvah, bringing the Omer. So why would he say you can't eat the entire day? It's never going to happen that we're not going to bring the Omer until the last second. It's hard to imagine. The question is, what happens if it was built at night, or right before Shkia Sachama? Basically, there's a possibility, and you have to understand exactly what's being said over here, that this may end up happening, and therefore there's still a chiyuv, and you'll end up eating it the day before. You're going to eat it when really you have to wait till the Omer. And Rashi asked the question, Dikash Delaila enu nivna, Dikaman b'shvuas, then binyan beis hamikdash b'layla, Dechsiv v'yoyim hokim b'loy b'chameisar shu yomtiv, Dikaman b'shvuas, the in binyan beis hamikdash doicha yomtiv. So the question is, what's this talking about? How could the Beis HaMikdash come on the 15th on Yom Tov? How can the Beis Hamikdash come at night? It's not true. It's a pli ployim. It's a great question. Usually, this is like a kasha. I have to look. This sounds like Taisus. But again, why would we even think there's a chance that the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built on Yom Tov? So listen to this beautiful Rashi. Hanimili binyan habanui b'diyadam. That's only if it comes by man. Avol mikdash asid, our future Beis Hamikdash, she'anu mitzapin, that we're hoping for, benui u'miskaylil hu yigala v'yavai mishamayim shenemar mikdash Hashem kanu yadecha. So according to this pshat, the Beis Hamikdash is not going to be built by us. It's going to come from God. It's going to come from Shemayim. So Hashem wants to come down at night. Who are we going to argue? Hashem's going to bring it down on Pesach. It's very interesting Lord. Of course, it's interesting. Obviously, the concept of Geula. It makes sense that of all days, that when we were redeemed from our troubles and travails, being enslaved in Mitzrayim, that's the ultimate cherus of Golus, and that was the ultimate Geula. So it makes sense that this actually could be a real chashash on Pesach, that it may actually happen. Lashon haba b'Yerushalayim. Okay, Ayin Rashi. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Rav Yochanan Zakkai. B'shitas Rav Yehuda Amar, the Omer Imina Torah hu Aser. According to the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, he holds like Rabbi Yehuda that says that's actually min ha-Torah. There's an Isser min ha-Torah that it's Aser to eat Chadash. It's an Isser d'Oraisa. That entire day. As we continue Memal from the Beis, Ad Etzem Hayom Hazeh. So what do we learn out from here? Ad Shit Etzum Shel Yoim. Miksaver Ad Viad B'chlal. As we saw in Tfilas HaShachar, in the fourth parak in Brachos, the famous Gemara, he holds Ad Viad B'chlal. Whenever it says until, it's including, not just up until, but including that point. So it says Ad Etzem Hayom Hazeh. That means that you also have to. Well, it's not mutter until sunrise. No, it's Ad Etzem Hayom Hazeh, including this day, which means this entire day is Aser, and therefore that's the reason why you're not allowed to eat Chadash on the when the Beis Hamikdash is not here. Not necessarily is it a Zecher L'Mikdash, as I'm going to ask in a second, but it's a Din D'Oraisa. So Misaver L'Kavase V'ha Miflig Polygale. He argues that Stein Mishachar Beis Hamikdash Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai Shehi Yom Hanaf Kul Aser. It's something which he was Masakin. He himself instituted it. It was a takana. It's not a din deraisa. So Amol Rabbi Yehuda B'Haloi Menatayr Hu Aser. V'Oksev Ad Yasam Hayom Hazeh Yasam Mishal Yoim. So Rabbi Yehuda Hu Dekatoi. He actually misunderstood him. Hu Savar Midurabanan Kaimer. Velohi Miduraisa Kaimer. He was actually saying a din deraisa. I Vaha Hiskin Kaimer. My Hiskin Dorsha Hiskin. He made the drasha. But it wasn't a takana that was the Rabbana. No. He actually feels that it was a din deraisa. And the word of Hiskin means he was darish. He understood this drasha based on the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda of Ad Etzem Hayom Hazeh, this Abiyad B'chlal. And therefore, for that reason, you actually are chayiv midiraisa. And you're not allowed to eat chadash that entire second day. Question 2. Masai muter lechel chadash b'yom hanaf b'zman she'ein Beis Hamikdash kayim midiraisa u'midirabanan. It's a great question. So what does this work? So min ha-Torah, as we said according to Rabbi Yehuda, according to one man de'omer, kol hayom, you can't eat it the entire day because Abiyad B'chal. Another man de'omer says no, it's mishahir hamizrach. For once it's sunrise, then you could eat chadash. However, it's the Rabbanan, they were misakin that you can't eat it at all. Question TA 21. Madua hiskin Rav Yochanan Zakkai she yom hanaf kul aser. 2 answers. Beautiful question. Why did he say that you cannot eat chadash on the second day? So one shot is just because they said what happens if the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt. You're going to eat it right away in the morning when you really have to wait. Therefore you ate chadash before the Omer was brought. Or alternatively, as we said, because he holds like the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda that Ad Etzem Yom Hazeh is Abiyad B'chlal, and therefore it's Asim in the Torah to be able to eat Chadash that entire day. Similar question, almost identical, is TB21 that says Mimatai, from when Mutter Achilas Chadash Bizman Hazeh Min HaTorah U'Midrabanan. Let's see if you write that different. L'chan Tana Min HaTorah Mutter Mishir HaMizrach Shel Yom Tes Zayin B'Nisan, the 16th. Rabbanan Gazer Isser Kol Yom, Rabbi Yehuda Kol Hayom Aser Min HaTorah. Okay, very, very similar questions. So move on. Next Mishnah. Yom Tov Rishon Shel Chag. So let's say we're now up to the first day of Sukkot, Shecholias B'Shabbos. It turns out, it happens sometimes, the first day of Sukkot is on Shabbos. So Kol Amoylichenes Ulavehum Bebeis HaKnesses. Everyone will bring their lulavim to and Rashi says already Erev Shabbos. You have to bring it before Shabbos starts on Erev Yom Tov, and you put it in the shul. On Mecharas, the next day, which is now Shabbos, Mashkimin, you get up early, of course, it's the first day Yom Tov, you get up early, Boyin, Kolech V'Echad, everyone gets up, Makar Shaloi B'Noikel, they take their lulav and they shake the lulav, and Esrog L'chayra means even on Shabbos. Why don't you just grab any lulav that's there? After all, you have 10 lavim. Who cares if it's yours? One of them is yours. No, it has to be yours. As we said, it has to be lechem. It has to be yours. On all the other days, if you grab someone else's lulav, it's nishkeferach. You can borrow someone else's lulav. If it's the first day of Sukkot, falls out on Shabbos, the shachach, and you forgot, instead of leaving it in shul on Friday afternoon, which you should have done, let's say you forgot, and you started carrying the lulav outside the Rishus Harabim, which of course is an Isser D'Oraisa of Hotzah, Potter. You're not going to be chayev for violating Hotzah. Why? Because you took it out Brishus. Rashi says Brishus mitzvah. Says Shahaya Tarud b'mitzvah. You were so busy thinking about doing the mitzvah, you're so quick to do it, and you forgot. If a person made a mistake by doing a mitzvah, and in that case you're going to be pater. When if it was b'shogeg, normally if you're machal Shabbos b'mezid, it's iser skilas or misa. However, chiyav misa. However, b'shogeg there's a chiyav carbon. You have to bring a carbon chatas, but in this case you wouldn't have to bring. So how do we know that a person cannot fulfill their obligation with someone else's lulav? The Tanabban, and we saw this already. It has to be in the hands of every single person. Lachem mishalchem means it must be yours. Not that's a gozel. Not even can you steal it. Why would you want to steal it? But as we saw before in the beginning of the third parak, not only can you not steal it, but it can even be borrowed. You cannot use someone else's lulav. What if you don't have one? So here's the trick. You could have him give it to you as a gift, and now all of a sudden it's yours, and never it's lechem. Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Lezer, and Azariah, Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Gamliel is always on a boat, hundreds of times in Shas. So he was together with all these other great rabbis. Of course, Rabbi Gamliel, again, he's the one who was always on the boat, so he was probably always prepared. So he had a lulav. No one else had a lulav. Can you imagine that? Sukkot, the greatest rabbis in the world of all time, they didn't have a lulav. So what happened? First of all, you should know that it probably was so expensive because it cost him $1,000 to buy this lulav. It sounds like the movie Ushpizin. Not the Rabban Gamliel v'yatzabai. So first of all, Rabbi Gamliel was his, so it makes sense he fulfilled the mitzvah first. But Nasal Rabbi Yeshua, he gave it over to Rabbi Yeshua. It's very interesting. Of all these great rabbis, we find the Tfilas Shachar and Masechtas Bechoros, Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, the times that he got into fights and he ended up losing his Nesius. But we see the great respect that he actually had for Rabbi Yeshua, who was also the Ab Beis Din, who was the second in command. It makes sense that he gave it to Rabbi Yeshua. But he gave it to Matana. Notlus, Rabbi Yeshua took it, Rabbi Yeshua, B'yatzabo. V'nasnu Rabbi Elazar ben Azari, B'matana, Natlu Rabbi Elazar ben Azari, B'yatzabo. So it doesn't belong to Rabbi Gamliel anymore. So it belonged to Rabbi Yeshua. So now Rabbi Yeshua, instead of giving it back to Rabbi Gamliel, he gave it to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. And V'nasnu B'matana, Rabbi Akiva. And then he gave it to Rabbi Akiva. Not Rabbi Akiva B'yatzabo, Hechzir Rabbi Gamliel. Afterwards he gave it back to Rabbi Gamliel. So, as a gift. Right now it went back to Rabbi Gamliel, but at all those different points, they belong to the person that was holding on to it. So Lamuli Meimer Chziru. Why does that have to keep saying that why does he returned it? So Milsa Gaborchi Kamashmulan Matana Manasla Hachser Shmo Matana. That even though everyone knew the whole purpose over here was to really give it back to the original person, so is that a real gift? If I'm giving you a matana, but it's al manasla hachser, on condition that you've got to give it back to me, is that really a gift at the time that you're holding on to it? And the answer is yes. At that moment, it's still considered to be mine, even though it's true I do have to give it back to you. It's okay. Ki hadi yomer Rabbi halach esrog zal manas shachzirenu lin natlav yatzabai hechzer yatzel hechzer yatzel. The person made this stipulation. I'm going to let you use my esrog, but on condition that you give it back to me. So as long as you give it back to me, use yatza. So Lamu remember shlach about zuz. So why have to tell us, Rabbi Gamliel, you spent $1,000? Oh, why does it have to spend? So mention that statement. So idea kama mitzvos chavivois alein, to show how much Rabbi Gamliel loved mitzvos that he was even willing to spend that much money for it. Amalei mar bar meimul Ravashi. So he said to Ravashi, Abba slui kamatsibe. Abba, he is engaged in davening. Says Rashi, Shoyim Espalil, when he was davening, he used to hold on to the lulav. He would actually be holding on to the lulav and esrog and daven the Shemon Esrei like this. So the question, it sounds great that he loved the mitzvahs, but apparently that's against halacha. Meisvei lo yachas adam tefillin biyadai. While you're davening Shemon Esrei, you're not to hold on to your tefillin. The Sefer Torah b'chikai is spali. You're not to daven when you're holding on to a Sefer Torah. Well, yashim and mayim, of course, a person is not allowed to urinate in them. Well, yishim and moshinas keva, moshinas arai. We talked about this in the second parak. Can you sleep, temporary sleep? Apparently, not even that. Yomer Shmuel, Sachin v'kar kikar mois harihu hari elu kiyotz ben. These are other things you're not supposed to hold on to while you're davening. And some of them are pretty obvious. A knife, it can fall on your foot or kill you. Kaira, a plate, let's say you have food there, or kikar, or bread. Umos, you're afraid you're going to lose this money, so you're going to be constantly focused on it. Or the food, so you're not going to be really davening with kavanah. Anyway, the question is, how could he be davening holding on to a lulav and esrog? The answer is, hasam la mitzvah the tarid b'hu. Hacha mitzvah ninhu v'lo tarid b'hu. All these other things are not mitzvahs. Over here, the lulav and esrog, because he's engaged in a mitzvah, he's not tarid in it, and therefore, since he's not like troubled or focused on it, therefore, for that reason, it's not a problem. Says Rashi, lav mitzvah ninhu l'ochsan b'havi lav l'maisa. Therefore, it's like a burden to hold on to. L'fikach tarid b'masim. It's like it's something which you don't really want to be holding on to. However, holding on to the lulav, it says netilasa kichasa mitzvah. Holding on to it's a mitzvah. I mean, taich shechaviva mitzvah love ein masa. It's not like a burden to you. The shimur kaved love lo tarid. It's not like it's not troublesome for you because you're enjoying the fact that you're Isaac in a mitzvah. Tanya Rabbi ben Sadik Omer Kachayim and Hagan Shol Anshi Yerushalayim. This is actually what people in Yerushalayim used to do. Adam Yoytz the base of the other. As soon as they left their house, you see them already walking around their lulav. Haylech the base achnesses lulav of the other. They're holding on to the lulav. Kair Kriyashma umispalel lulav of the other. Even during the Shema, the Shemon Esrei, they're always holding on to the lulav. Kair b'Torah v'noises kapla. When they're reading the Torah, they're doing the Seis Kapayim, the Kohanim. Menicha al gabi karka. So they have to follow along in the Torah, or they have to do the Seis Kapayim with their hands. So they put it. Lavdan means literally on the ground, but it means you put it like on a table of sorts. They're not actually holding it at that time. However, when they go to visit the sick, or nachem yivolim, or to console those who are mourning, lo biyadai. Nichnas beis hamedrash, when they go to shul, v'shagru lava biyadai, biyad benai, biyad avdo, biyad shluchai. So at that point, he gives the lulav over to his child, or his servant, or some messenger. So my kamash, what does this whole thing come to tell you? Kamahayu zrizin b'mitzvahs. Interesting language. They changed to zrizin instead of chavivin, but it's something which obviously shows a tremendous love and devotion to the mitzvos, and therefore they're always holding on to the lulav and esrog. It's not just you hold on to it for lulav and esrog. For Hallel, could we say Hoshana's right after Hallel? This way I don't have to put it down and then put it up. I have to hold the lulav and esrog. Chas v'shalom twice during davening. So the reality is that if we learn from them that it's not a burden, it's a tremendous chus to be able to do the mitzvah. And therefore you can hold on to the lulav and esrog for a few more moments in Tishkafelach, Pumfaker. That's even great that a person is able to connect to that mitzvah for longer periods of time. So we're going to stop there. Let's see if we have any more questions. Question 2 we did. Let's see, TA 22. Yeah, we did not do this. Madua, why is it usher? Lahachzik sefer Torah b'shas hatfil. Why not to hold on to a Torah while you're davening? U'mayshna lulav the shari. So he says sefer Torah in mitzvah also. There's no mitzvah to hold on to it. Avimasa. It's like a burden to you. The Torah who b'machshavta, you're constantly thinking, you may fall, and therefore you're not going to have the proper mindset for davening. But lulav is a mitzvah. The chaviva love, they know Torah. The person's not going to be Torah, and therefore for that reason, it's something which is allowed. That was actually TB 22. TA 22. We'll see tomorrow. Ad